Until about a week ago, I thought I'd read George Orwell's dystopian masterpiece, 1984, when I was in high school. But it turns out I was thinking of Animal Farm, another one of his books. Good thing we got to listen to the Audible original adaptation of 1984 for this month's social chapter pick. So I'm finally familiar with the story.
I'm so happy to hear that, Jess. Well, the Audible original is a bold and chilling new take on Orwell's classic, and it stars an epic cast featuring Andrew Garfield, Cynthia Erivo, and Andrew Scott, plus Tom Hardy as Big Brother. Let's take a little listen.
And then came the part which makes my entrails grow cold. The subhuman chanting. Self-hypnosis, deliberate drowning of consciousness fills me with horror. I chant with them, of course. But in that chanting, there was a moment where the expression in my eyes betrayed me, where I showed a flicker of contempt for all of this. And it was exactly at this moment when the significant thing happened. The thing which made me buy the book, which made me commit this thought crime in the first place and start speaking to you.
Ooh, that's good, right? All right. We all have 20 seconds to sound off about it. Teddy, as our special guest, you're here today. Why don't you kick things off and tell us what you thought about 1984 and why?
Well, thank you very much. I'll do just that. So I gave this an 8.8 out of 10. And here's why. At first, I was skeptical whether an audio production could convey the existential dread and in-your-face terror of this literary masterpiece. But like truth is erased in the book's setting of Oceania, my skepticism was quickly wiped from the record. Fantastic performances combined with impactful auditory details established the dystopian hellscape imagined by Orwell. To put it in 1984's newspeak, it's double plus good, and that's no thought crime. What about you, Mel?
You did it. You got it in there in time. Okay, well, thank you so much for that, Teddy. I gave this an 8 out of 10, and here's why.
Wow.
This was such a novel experience for me to listen to one of the most important works of the canon of Western literature, and it did not disappoint. I loved listening to some of the finest actors of our time. The only drawback, any adaptation by definition has been rewritten with quite different language. So if you're looking for a strict adherence to the original, this ain't it. Think of it as 1984 light. Most of the story, half the calories.
Yeah.
All right, so Mel, Andrea, what? Sorry, you're supposed to ask.
Andrea.
Say Let's be natural about it. Do it.
Okay, wait. So, Andrea, what did you think?
Oh, thank you so much for asking, Mel.
God, you're welcome.
I gave this an 8.5 out of 10, and here's why. 1984 is a terrorizing look at a dark and gloomy future. Sadly, this timeless classic reflects our world today in many ways, from discussions about censorship, rewriting history, authoritarianism, and this unnerving feeling that Big Brother is always watching, or at the very least, listening to our conversations. Now, the relationship between Winston and Julia, played by Andrew and Cynthia, were at times hot and sexy and other times so frustrating. But if you want an audiobook that is engaging, thought-provoking, and philosophical, look no further than 1984.
Good work.
Say my name. Wait, let's make it really natural. So, Jess, what did you think?
Oh my God, thank you for asking me. I gave this a 9 out of 10. And here's why.
Nice.
Because this was my first time listening to a literary adaptation, and I had my doubts, but the high-quality production hooked me from the start. Felt like I was listening to a movie, and I better understand why 1984 has been a staple on classroom curricula for generations, because every generation needs to be reminded that while democracies are hard and slow to build, they crumble very quickly.
Yep.
Yes,
Good
they
point,
do.
Jess. Great point.
And we're going to jump off of that last point that you made, Jess, because we are literally fighting for democracy in countries around the world right now, which is what makes 1984 feel so relevant today, even though this was first published in 1949. So what other parallels, you guys, struck you between the dystopian world of Oceania and life today?
Well, to me, in the world of 1984, freedom was being able to say 2 + 2 = 4. It was a freedom because it was an act of bravery. Like, it was not allowed because Big Brother was telling you to believe, no, 2 + 2 = 5.
Yeah.
And so it's that idea between truth and belief. It's such a tricky line. Like, we want people to be able to have the freedom to believe in what they want to believe, but when your beliefs start infringing upon the truth, that gets scary.
Yes,
really
yes.
is
And
scary.
Orwell wrote this 1984 as a reaction to dictatorial leaders in Europe like Hitler and Stalin, and it's considered a clear warning to the world that unchecked power corrupts. And this story is now, I know, you want to clap, it's true. It's true. This story is now 75 years old, so why haven't we learned our lessons yet? Teddy, what do you think about that?
That's such a great question. There's so many truisms in this book and in this audio production to kind of build on what you were saying. You know, manipulation of truth is important. 2 + 2 = 5, for example, because manipulation of truth is the ultimate form of control. And one of the really famous quotes from this book, and it's in this awesome audio production as well, is that control is important because who controls the past controls the future. If you control history, you control the future. And who controls the present controls the past. That's also from a Rage Against the Machine song. They took it from there. But I think that's a truism that really exists today. And, you know, that notion of power in 1887, Lord Acton, he was an English historian and politician. He coined the idea that absolute power corrupts absolutely. Once you have power, you want more and more of it. So I think all those things still apply today and were so eloquently laid out by Orwell in 1949. And as you alluded to as well, he was talking about the Stalinist Soviet Union and the rise of Nazis in Germany. So it's chilling how prescient he was.
You know, but the idea of controlling the past so that you can control today, what about the people who remember the past, who live the past when they start to die? And what's happening is you have an entire new generation who never lived through things like the Holocaust, who even question if something like the Holocaust happened. And so that idea of what is truth, you're starting to lose that generation. And are we then bound to repeat the same mistakes in a pattern?
Right?
You know, and I think of my father as a perfect example. He left Portugal, and there was a dictatorship in Portugal before the Republic was installed. And that is now sort of, in many parts of Europe, many countries in Europe, they are swinging right all over again. So is this just a generational thing? So are we bound to just repeat the mistakes of history?
Don't you think it's a little bit of hubris? Because before Nazism, before Stalinism, but even before Franco's Spain, there were little signs. But we ignored it, and I think we're hubristic to think, oh, it'll never happen again.
Yeah, absolutely, we're hubristic. And you know, I like a lot of very optimistic and utopian science fiction, like utopian imaginary worlds like the future that Star Trek envisions. Sadly, I don't know if we're ever going to get there. I think the goal now has to be preventing global nuclear annihilation, because I think we as humans are inherently tribal, and you know what we do? We always talk about the other, right? Whoever the other is, and that's what this book touches upon as well. And I want to say this audio production in particular, it's abridged, right? This is about 3.5 hours long. The book is over 350 pages, and this isn't like just one person reading it. It's a full audio production, like in the spirit of Orson Welles, and they do such a good job of establishing the world. I loved it.
Well, this has been very uplifting. Andrea, what would you say to people who haven't read 1984 and might find it a bit daunting to listening to that Audible
Listen,
original?
what are you waiting for? You need to start listening to it. It grabs you in the first 10 seconds, which for me is very important, whether I'm reading a book or listening. And also, I don't know about you, but I don't have the time to always sit down and read a book. So when you're on your commute, when you're in your car, you're on the transit, you can listen, and then you can have a fantastic... This story is so good, guys.
So good.
You definitely want to listen.
It is. You can hear from this discussion, we loved it. It is definitely worth it. And good news, you can join Jess and the one and only Teddy Wilson on Instagram Live today at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. They're going to be continuing this conversation that we're having here, including the idea of Big Brother watching us at every moment and how that relates to things like, I don't know, our phones. And also a spicy one discussing what it was like listening to a very hot sex scene in the audio version.
Yes, I know. We're all like...
We're going to disagree on this.
I know.
It's going to be good.
You guys talk about that. All right, but for now, it's time for the big reveal. Drum roll, please, everybody. Thank you very much. Our next social chapter selection is the true crime Canadian Audible original, Chasing Boaz Manor. It tells the captivating real-life story of a brilliant and shameless con man who deceived investors out of millions of dollars, prompted an international search, and get this, is still at large.
Ooh, dun, dun, dun. We love a good true crime story. So make sure to head to audible.ca. You can listen along with us. Your first audiobook is free with your membership. So what are you waiting for? We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after.
Hey there, what did you think? Drop your comments below and join the conversation. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you can find more on everything from food and fashion to pop culture and current events. See you soon.